Six Nations is on a break this week, but don't despair. The URC will give us a rugby fix. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Now Six Nations this week, and a lot of top line players for the Six Nations teams will be rested this week, but it's going to be some exciting contests as well. And remember what I always say, points picked up at this, in these kind of rounds count exactly the same as points picked up when, everyone has their full team out as well. Also, the South African teams not in the Six Nations, so therefore they're going to be playing strong teams as well. But there's some interesting fixtures this weekend, and a lot of teams really do have a chance to make a move now over. We have a round now. We're going to be back to the Six Nations the week after, and we have another round. So these two rounds here, bit of jostling, I think, before that run to the end of the season then. And once we're past the Six Nations, with Champions Cup knockout and the URC as well, it's going to be, a sprint to the finish almost. We're going to be like, this is round 11. So once the Six Nations are done, we're only going to have 6 rounds left for teams to make those playoffs, So, yeah, these are important games this weekend. It doesn't matter, who's playing in them in terms of the personnel. And also, the other thing is, players playing this week, this weekend, could be potentially making Six Nations debuts next year as well, this time next year. So, it's a good chance to have a look at some up-and-coming players, especially if they're not, from your own country or your own team or wherever. But what we'll do, usual things, we'll run down through the games. We'll talk about the form of the teams as well in the URC, and then we'll make a bit of prediction on what we think is going to happen or who's going to be the winner. So we'll start with the Friday games, and we've got 2 games kicking off at 7:35. First one here is Edinburgh versus Zebre Parma. So this is 8th versus 15th, and it's at the Hive Stadium in Edinburgh. So looking at the form book for these two teams, Edinburgh have won 4 of the last 7, and Zebre 2 of the last 7. And Edinburgh kind of almost as usual, I have to say, for Edinburgh, kind of up and down a little bit. So in the last 7, they started the run with a pretty comfortable win against the Stormers, then beat Cardiff pretty comfortably as well. Then they lose to Ospreys, and at that stage, then Ospreys, were having a pretty poor season. Ospreys started to come good, in the last kind of few rounds or so. Then beat Benetton pretty handily, lost to Glasgow in the first of the 1872 Cup. Then they beat them in the return by 3 points. And then last time out, they lost to Scarlets by 6 points. So, as I said, up and down for Edinburgh. Zebre, they've, as I said, only won 2 of the last 7, but for Zebre, that's a lot. 3 wins this season. A lot of people wouldn't have said, that they'd win 3 games over a couple of seasons. So they had that early win in the season against Munster, and then on a bit of a losing run, like in the last 7, they started with 30-point loss to Glasgow, then a 1-point loss to Lions, a decent performance, 22-point loss to Scarlets, then they beat Ospreys by 5 points, then 1-point loss to Benetton and a 12-point loss to Benetton, and then that win by a point away to Ulster, their first away win in 36 games or wherever it was. Absolutely amazing from them. But I'm not sure that it's going to be 2 away wins on the trot for them, honestly. I think Edinburgh are going to have enough to win this one, and probably win it by a couple of scores as well. So I'm going to go for an Edinburgh win in that one. Okay, on to the next one then. The other Friday game is Ospreys versus Leinster. Also 7:35 kickoff. It's 12 versus 1st. It's at the Swanseas.com stadium. This one, if you're watching in Ireland, is on TG Cahir, but it's also on Premier Sport, Now TV, and the URC TV as well. So plenty of options watching these games. The Edinburgh game on all of those except for TG Cahir, which is generally only shows games involving Irish teams. So form book. Ospreys, form the start of the season, like lost to Dragons first up. But, after a very poor run to start of the season, start to recover a little bit now. And yeah, they've done well, I think, to kind of drag themselves back up the table. I'm going to have to check. Oh, I know where it is. Okay. I was wondering why are they telling me it's in 12th, and then like I'm looking on Super Brew and they're showing them in 10th instead of 12th. But it's because I think Super Brew just has put the team in a different order. That's all it is. Because Stormers and Benetton are also on the same amount of points. But Ospreys, looking to get themselves back in, up into that top 8 where they finished last year. We all remember, the run they had, especially those last 2 games, getting themselves into the playoffs, and they're looking to do something similar this year. And you see that in their form as well. They've won 3 of the last 7 with 1 draw in there as well. And then, it's all kind of loaded to more recently. So 7 games ago, lost the Bulls by 10 points, then lost Ulster by 24, then they beat Edinburgh by 9, lost to Zebre by 5, then they beat Scarlets by 1, drew against Cardiff, and beat Benetton by 43. And that 43-0 performance by them was something special. Yes, Benetton with our players away with the Italy squad, but still impressive by Ospreys. Then Leinster, 10 out of 10 for the season in the URC so far. So no prizes for guessing that they're 7 out of 7 in the last 7. So beat Munster by 14, Connacht by 21, Emirates by 18, Ulster by 7, Connacht by 8. Then, let me find the other one. Munster by 21, and then the Stormers by 24. So, it's hard in terms of this one to see anything other than a Leinster win. I don't think they will go the whole season unbeaten, but I don't think this is going to be the one that, the first one that they lose this year. So I'm going to go for a Leinster win. Should be interesting what players are playing for Leinster, given how many are away with Ireland at the moment. I think it's 23 in the initial 36-man squad for the Six Nations, but still there's plenty of quality in that Leinster squad still there. Hoping to see the likes of Alex Soroka as well getting a run out. I think he's a real prospect there, but had trouble injuries, and also he needs a run in the team really for a few games this season to kind of progress a little bit. So we'll see if that happens for him or not. On to the next one then. So the first of the all South African affairs this weekend. So it is the first Saturday game, February 15th. It's a 12:30 kickoff, or if you're in South Africa, I think it's a 2:30 kickoff. And it is Emirates Lions versus DHL Stormers. This is 13th versus 10th, and this is the Emirates Airlines Park. And it's on, as usual, Premier Sport, Now TV, and URC TV as well. I think all the games are on those 3 platforms, so I think I'll stop saying it now. But this is an interesting one because you have 2 teams, who are trying to get into those playoffs. They both have chances. Lions had a very strong start to the season, dropped away. Stormers had a poor start to the season and starting to come back, but they did lose. There was a game played last week that we didn't talk about, and that was I think Stormers 32, Bulls 33 or something like that. Definitely the Bulls won away to the Stormers by a point. So, Stormers going to want to bounce back after that, because you can't lose too many in this and still be able to actually claw your way back, or claw your way into the top 8, should I say, because their start of the season they weren't really near the top 8. So this is one of these ones where the winner is going to be, probably, either in the top 8 or right in the cusp of it. And then the loser is really going to be scratching around, trying to find some form, and going to have to produce, a good run to actually get to the knockout stages. So looking at the form, the Lions, as I said, very front loaded, and we can see that in the last 7. They had wins against Edinburgh, then Dragons and Zebre, then 4 losses in a row, Leinster, Munster, Stormers, and then Bulls. The Stormers then, 3 wins out of 7 for them as well. But the timing a little bit different. So win against Munster, then losses against Glasgow and Sharks, then wins against the Lions and the Sharks, and then losses against Leinster and the Bulls. And there was a 1-point loss against the Bulls last time out. So this is a tough one to pick. And even while I'm thinking of it here, since I started talking about this game, in my head, I've changed my mind about 3 or 4 times between, thinking, okay, Lions at home, they've had decent form at home this year, and maybe that's going to tip it for them. And then switching to the Stormers, because they got close to the Bulls, couldn't pull it off, but maybe, that sting from that one is going to be enough for them to produce a performance in this one. And it's kind of difficult, honestly, to pick who's going to be the winner. So I'm going to go for I haven't even made up my mind. I'm going to go for a Lions win, and that's the end of it. So Lions to win, but I think Stormers might actually get 2 bonus points out of this one. Okay, on to the next one then. It is the other South African derby, and it's on Saturday, February 15th as well. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. It's Vodacom Bulls versus Hollywoodbets Sharks, 3rd versus 4th, and this is at Loftus Versfeld. So these two can have, different trajectories this year. The Bulls, been up there for much of the season, and the Sharks kind of came a bit later and made their way up to 4th place. But with this one, given the fact that you're probably thinking Leinster are going to win, well, it doesn't really matter if Leinster win or not, because neither of these teams are going to pip them. And then when we look at the Glasgow game, probably thinking that these two are basically fighting out for 3rd spot. Now the Sharks would have to beat the Bulls with a bonus point, and deny the Bulls any kind of bonus point to get onto the same match points as them. And I'm not sure, but maybe points difference as well. They might have to, win handsomely to get that in their favour. But it's going to be a very competitive game between these two. They are obviously the form South African teams at the moment. Being up there in 3rd and 4th in the table. More jeopardy, I think, for the Sharks, because the Bulls lose this one. They obviously don't want to lose at home, but if they did lose this one, they'd probably stay in 3rd place. Whereas if the Sharks lose, there's the possibility of them, dropping down somewhere around about 6th or 7th, depending on how results go, with the teams that are, directly below them. So, form coming in, both teams have won 5 of the last 7. So, more used to winning than losing recently. Bulls beat Ospreys, lost to Scarlets, then wins against Benetton and Connacht, lost against the Sharks in the return game, or the reverse fixture. Lions, then they beat them, and that 1-point win against the Stormers last weekend. the Sharks then started their run with a loss to Benetton, then wins against the Warriors, Munster, the Stormers, and the Bulls, and then a loss against the Stormers, and a win against Cardiff, a comfortable win against Cardiff. So with this one, I think I'm going to go with home advantage in this one as well. And I'm going to go for a Bulls win. But I think this is one of the picks of the weekend. I wish that it wasn't a 3 o'clock kickoff. It's a 5 o'clock kickoff if you're in South Africa, by the way. Excuse me. But yeah, I wish it was on maybe an hour later, because then I'd be able to actually watch this game and maybe then cover it for the channel. So won't be able to watch it. Work means that I can't watch anything on delay, because by the time I get home, there's a game that I want to watch live anyway. Next, then, the game that I probably will watch, or maybe not, because there are two to choose from. The first of the 5:15 games is Benetton versus Ulster. This is 11th versus 9th. It's in the Stadio Monigo. And again, form-wise, Benetton 4 wins from 7, Ulster 3 wins from 7. So Benetton beating the Sharks, then the Dragons, lost against the Bulls, and Edinburgh then wins against Zebre, 2 wins against Zebre, and that heavy loss against Ospreys. Ulster then wins against Connacht and Ospreys, then 3 losses in a row, Cardiff, Leinster, and then Munster. Then they had a win against Connacht, and then that 1 point loss against Zebre, where they were pretty poor. So this is a tough one, because both these teams, the last time they played, were pretty poor in the URC. And you wonder who's going to be able to pick it up from there. And like my head is saying, Benetton at home, Benetton should win that game. But my heart is going for Ulster, and for once I'm going to listen to my heart. I'm going to back Ulster to win that one. Okay, on to the next one, which the other one that I might watch is going to be one of these two anyway. Is Munster versus Scarlets, also 5:15 kickoff, so I can't watch both. 7th versus 6th, and it's in Thomond Park, and this one is on RTE for anyone watching in Ireland as well. So yeah, maybe I'm going to go for that one, simply because there seems to be a little more on the line, given the positions in the table for these two teams at the minute. But Munster won 3 of the last 7, Scarlets 5 of the last 7, shown excellent form. And it's crazy to think, like, after 3 or 4 rounds, whenever it was, that they lost to Connacht, wasn't it, by a couple of points or a point, with like a last a late penalty that Dwayne Peel was under a lot of pressure for his position, but since then they've gone on a great run, and I was talking at the time as well about how much more competitive they were, and they're showing it in the results lately. But Munster, in their run, lost against Leinster, then Stormers and Sharks, then wins against the Lions and Ulster, lost against Leinster again, and then a win against Dragons last time out. Fairly comfortable win for them as well. Scarlets, their last 7, they beat Cardiff, the Bulls and Zebre, then losses against Glasgow and Ospreys, then wins against Dragons and Edinburgh. So this is going to be another one that I think it's going to be close. Like Scarlets, they've been playing some decent rugby, but they've got a bit more grit about them this season as well. Munster, started the season fairly poorly, but the last time, like through the Champions Cup and last time out as well against Dragons, we're seeing their attack be more cohesive now, and I think that's going to help them in this one. And I think both teams are going to carry a threat, but I think Munster are going to win that one, so I'm going to go for a Munster win. On to the next one then. It's 7:35 kickoff on Saturday. It's Connacht versus Cardiff Rugby, and it's 14th versus 5th. This one is on TG Cahir if you're watching in Ireland. and all the other, the regular places as well for anyone watching outside of Ireland. So this is kind of an interesting one because Matt Sharrett, Cardiff head coach, has now been appointed interim Wales head coach due to Warden Gatland quitting / being fired. I don't know, probably mutual consent, right, is what they say. But yeah, he's taking over as Welsh coach, but he's going to be involved in the prep for this. So we'll see, does that affect him? Does it affect his players, etc.? But in terms of form, Connacht, pretty bad form at the minute, and Cardiff pretty decent form, honestly. So Connacht last 7, lost against Ulster, then Leinster, 1 win out of the 7, that was against the Dragons, then losses against the Bulls, Leinster again, Ulster, and Glasgow. The Glasgow one, they only lost by 3, so it was a decent performance, and maybe back, in Galway now, they might kind of fancy themselves to have a cut at Cardiff. Cardiff then 3 wins out of the last 7 and 1 draw as well. So started the sequence with losses against the Scarlets and Edinburgh, then 3 wins and draw. Ulster, Dragons, and Dragons again. Then draw against the Ospreys, and then lost against the Sharks last time out by 20 points. Okay. But that was a pretty tasty Sharks side as well that they were playing. So another one where it's head versus heart. Like Head is saying, Cardiff should win it because in the much better form of the two teams. I think Connacht at home, they'll fancy, that they'll have a chance in this, I think. And I think Connacht are probably gonna pull out the win on this one. So I'm gonna go for a Connacht win there. Okay, on to then, I think it's the last game of the round, right? Yeah, it is Dragons versus Glasgow. This one is on Sunday. It's a 2:00 kickoff. Again, why can't it be like a 4:00 kickoff or something? Because then I could watch it. 16 versus 2nd. This is Rodney Parade. So, rock bottom versus like the team that's won from the top. And form just tells you straight away. Like Dragons lost their last 7. So losses against the Lions, Benetton, then Connacht, Cardiff again, Scarlets, and Munster. Glasgow have won 5 of the last 7 in fantastic form. They've only lost 3 games this season. So in this sequence, beat Zebre handily, lost narrowly against the Sharks, then beat the Stormers, Scarlets, and Edinburgh. Then lost against Edinburgh by 3 points, and then that win against Connacht last time out by 3 points as well. So no surprises really. I think in this one it's going to be a Glasgow win, and it's going to be a Glasgow bonus point win. Pretty sure, and they're going to want, like at the moment, 10 points behind Leinster. It's probably, that gap probably won't close this weekend, but what they will want is, given that the Bulls and the Sharks are playing each other, they're probably hoping for a Sharks win, and if they win themselves, then they have a bit of daylight between themselves and the Bulls, and then they can, kind of, rather than looking over their shoulder, kind of focus on trying to hunt Leinster down once Leinster do have that wobble, because Leinster have had a wobble every year since the URC started, and you just kind of expect it to come now. Generally, it's when they have to do their South African tour, which is towards the end. I think normally it's in like the last 4 rounds or something. Like 2 of those rounds will be their tour to South Africa. Excuse me. So yeah, Glasgow will kind of want to stay, within touching distance, at the moment 10 points, so around about 10 points, to see if they can maybe benefit from another late Leinster wobble in the league. But for the moment, yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a Glasgow win. Okay, and there is another game coming up weekend after, which is the Bulls versus the Lions, but we won't talk about that in this one because it's not officially part of round 11 of the URC. I think it could even be from, there's definitely other rounds, like round 1 and another round where those games are actually officially listed, on the URC website. But yeah, that's basically the preview for the weekend. Some very interesting matchups coming up as well. Really looking forward to it. Some people, probably will take a break from rugby this weekend, kind of re-energize themselves for the Six Nations comeback. But for me, at the moment, I can't get enough rugby. So I'm definitely going to be covering, I think 2 of the games at the moment. Looking at it, it's probably going to be Ospreys versus Leinster. And then, on Saturday, most probably it's going to be Munster versus Scarlets. Okay, so that's the end of this one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.